Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 5010-407-639. This is a plain bearing, 5-knuckle, full mortise, wide throw, steel base, 4x7, removable pin, satin bronze hinge. Let's start at the beginning with the part number. 5010 means a number of things. First of all, it means that it is a full mortise hinge. You can see from the swag on the hinge leafs there that they're intended to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame when the door is in the closed position. Means that it is a standard weight hinge. This hinge is going to have a leaf thickness of 130 thousandths, which is considered standard duty commercial. Might be called heavy duty residential, but for a commercial application that's standard duty. Okay, so standard weight, very typical. 130 thousandths for a 4-inch tall hinge is proper. That's correct. That's what a 4-inch tall hinge would be when it was standard weight. Okay, so now moving forward with the part number, part of it also means that it's a 5-knuckle hinge. That's self-explanatory. It also means that it is a plain bearing hinge. There are no bearing packets at all, being a standard weight plain bearing hinge. It would have two if it was a BB5010, that would be ball bearing. This being a plain bearing hinge, there are none. The 1 in the part number means that this hinge is a wide throw hinge. Okay, the 0 in the part number means that it is a steel base, the second 0. So 5010 all conspire to mean full mortise, standard weight, 5-knuckle, plain bearing, wide throw, steel base hinge. Jumping ahead a little bit, the 639 part of the part number means that this hinge is steel based with a satin bronze finish. And before we get to a little bit more explanation of that, let's finish off the part number. 407 means that the hinge is 4-inch tall and 7-inch wide. The height is always the first dimension on a hinge like this. Okay, it wouldn't be 7x4. It would be height by width. It's the opposite of how doors are sized. I don't know why. That's just how they are. Okay. And while it's not so important, I suppose, if you had a hinge that was 4x4, when you get into a hinge that's no longer square, like 5x4.5, or obviously 4x7, it's important to note that the height is first. It's a common mistake that people will make because it's logical to assume that they're sized the same way a door would be, where it's width and then height. These types of hinges are backwards. Okay, so moving on to the description of the item. Below this video is a link to what's called the cut sheet. And that is a very handy document because it shows everything important dimensionally about the item, specifically the location of the screw holes. And speaking of screw holes, screws are included in a complementary finish, machine and wood screws. Other dimensional properties regarding it, dimensions that we aren't going to cover in this video. But in the bottom third of the page, you see that table, and it shows you how the part numbers change when specifics of the hinge change. For instance, you've got 3 columns under category number: steel base, brass or bronze base, and stainless steel base. You can see how that last number changes when the base material changes, so that's important. A 5000 or a 5001 or a 5002 hinge is specifically a standard sort of hinge that is not considered wide throw. When you get into an 8000 series hinge, that's a 3-knuckle hinge. When you add a BB, like we said earlier, this 5-knuckle hinge, the BB5 series hinge, becomes a ball bearing hinge. If you add an LB to the front of the 8000 series part number, it becomes a ball bearing hinge, but it's called lube bearing. It's a concealed sort of bearing construction for hinges in 3-knuckle design specific to Bommer. So you see how your bearing changes, the base material changes, etc. Now this hinge also is available in several different architectural finishes, all of the brass, bronze, chrome finishes, satin and polished nickel, black, bright black japanned, zinc, prime coat, okay, things of that nature. Now, a hinge like this, a wide throw hinge, where you would use this is in a situation by which you have an unusual condition on the door. Specifically meaning that on the pull side of the door, you have a wall condition or maybe a trim condition or a condition that the doors are set deeper into the frame that requires a wider hinge for the door to get out and around the casing, brick mold, or the wall. So here would be an example. You have a exterior door, the door swings out, and you've got 3/4 inch thick brick mold on top of some sort of other treatment that you've had to apply to the face of the wall. While 7-inch may not be the right size for that, a wide throw hinge would be the right size. Or, you know, when you stand on the pull side of a door and you run your hand over the face of the door and the frame, the door is inset ever so slightly, about 3/32 of an inch. Well, imagine if it was inset 1.5 inches, some dimension like that. That would be a condition by which you'd have a wide throw hinge. And while that's unusual, it's not unheard of. I've seen many instances of applications, generally in significantly older homes. Homes in the southeast that are 3 stories tall and were built, you know, in the late 1800s. Those first floor walls are exceptionally thick, and they've got doors set very far into the jambs. And those situations, when you want the door to open up around, back against the wall, 180 degree, you'd certainly need a wide throw hinge. Another application very commonly is windows. You might have small, you know, 2 foot wide by 2 foot tall windows in the old, typically historic situation, application. Those windows would be set in from the brick facade, but you want to be able to get the windows open so that the shutter hardware can hold the windows open. Okay, that'd be another use. And if you're thinking wide throw hinges, you might need to consider an extended lip strike plate as well. Those at times go hand in hand. There's other applications where you would need a wide throw hinge, but the bottom line is if you need to kick the vertical axis of pivoting out further, a wide throw hinge would do it. Okay. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo. Right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer number 5010-407-639 wide throw satin bronze finish hinge or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us.